let's go. Welcome to the Axios Safety Channel. I'm Charlie Virtual, but you can call me Charlie V, your virtual safety consultant. And this year, we're building something big at Axios Safety Consulting. We don't believe safety is paperwork. We don't believe it's a checklist. Safety is culture. It's how you lead. It's how you operate. It's how you protect your people every single day. We're rolling out 12 focused episodes this year. Real-world safety across construction, oil and gas, trucking, and industrial operations. No fluff, no boring safety talk, just practical guidance you can actually use. Because complacency doesn't show up loud, it shows up comfortable. And consistency kills complacency. We're creating culture, one American company at a time. Now let's kick this off with a big one. Hazard communication. Let's talk HazCom. All right, hazard communication. We're talking about OSHA's HazCom standard, but what does that really mean? And why should it matter to you? We all know chemicals can be dangerous. I mean, look around. Lab coat, gloves, goggles, face shield, open containers, potentially volatile substances. In here, we respect the risk. But here's the real question. What about the workplace? Because I'll tell you something right now. The chemicals you deal with on the job can be just as dangerous, if not more, than anything you'd see in a lab like this. So let's take this out of the laboratory and bring it into your reality. What's the difference between this and the lab we were just in? In the lab, everything's controlled. It's organized. It's labeled. We expect chemicals to be hazardous. Out here, this feels normal. We've got drums on the floor, containers on shelves, partially labeled jugs, products we use every single day. Now I've got my hard hat, safety glasses, gloves on, and you'll notice I don't have a face shield on right now. That's because I'm not actively pouring or mixing this chemical. If I were using it and there was a splash hazard, that face shield would absolutely be on. PPE always matches the task. But here's the real point. Gasoline contains benzene. Brake cleaner can release toxic vapors. Degreasers, solvents, fuels, they all carry hazards. The difference isn't danger. The difference is awareness. In the lab, we respect chemicals. In the workplace, we get comfortable around them. And that's exactly where hazard communication matters most. All right, before we go in here, let's get something straight real quick. Under OSHA's hazard communication standard, your employer is required to have a written HazCom program, properly labeled containers, accessible safety data sheets, and training that you actually understand. That system isn't there to check a box. It's there to protect you. It's there so you know what you're exposed to, what the hazards are, and how to protect yourself before something goes wrong. But knowing the rules isn't enough. You've got to understand how chemicals actually enter the body in the workplace, because once you understand that, everything else starts to make sense. So if you're ready, let's head inside the virtual training center and break down the 4 major routes of exposure. All right, guys and gals, let's understand something right now. Safety is simple. It doesn't matter what you're doing or where you're at. If you follow 3 basic principles, safety becomes simple. First, identify. What am I doing? What task am I performing? Second, ask yourself, how could this hurt me? What are the hazards associated with this task? And third, what am I going to do about it? What's the control? If you can train your mind to think like that, everything else we talk about starts falling into place. Because at the end of the day, this is about putting yourself first. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with looking out for number 1. Now let's take it a step further. Have you ever really thought about how chemicals enter your bloodstream, your respiratory system, and ultimately affect your vital organs, your blood, even your cells? Think about this. People wear nicotine patches every single day. They absorb nicotine through their skin. So what makes you think you can't absorb benzene from working around gasoline, solvents, or vapors all day long? So how do these chemicals enter the body? The number 1 route of exposure is inhalation. Why? Because everybody breathes. If a chemical can turn into a vapor, a mist, an aerosol, and you can inhale it, that's something you need to know about. And if that chemical is potentially hazardous to your health, that's something you need to guard against. The second route of exposure is ingestion. That means you eat it or you drink it. If you don't wash your hands after changing a valve gasket on a biogas tank and then you go straight to lunch, what do you think just happened? Or how about something simple? Somebody stores a blue liquid in a Gatorade bottle. You don't think there's a chance somebody could grab that and take a drink? That's an ingestion hazard. And storing chemicals in food or beverage containers is illegal, period. The third route of exposure is injection. punctures, needle sticks, sharp objects that break the skin. Think about law enforcement officers. They ask, do you have anything sharp in your pockets? Why? Because they don't know what could poke or cut them, or what chemical or drug residue might be on it. And the fourth route is absorption, through your skin, through your eyes, through soft tissue. If nicotine can be absorbed through a patch, other chemicals can absorb through unprotected skin too. That's why PPE matters. That's why best practices matter. But now the real question becomes, how do you know which chemicals are dangerous? How do you know what they can do to you? And how do you know what PPE you actually need? That's where safety data sheets and chemical labeling come into play. And we're breaking that down right now. All right, let's talk about chemical labeling and safety data sheets. Under OSHA's Hazard Communication Standard, every hazardous chemical in the workplace has to be properly labeled. So what has to be on that label? First, product identifier. That's the exact name of the chemical so you can match it to the SDS. Second, signal word, either danger or warning. That tells you the severity of the hazard. Third, hazard statements. These explain what the chemical can do. Flammable, toxic, corrosive, carcinogenic. Fourth, precautionary statements. These tell you how to protect yourself, how to prevent exposure, how to respond, how to store and dispose of it safely. And fifth, pictograms. We'll break those down next. Now here's something important. If you transfer a chemical into a secondary container, like a spray bottle or smaller jug, it still must be labeled. At minimum, it needs the product identifier and hazard information. No mystery bottles, no guessing games. Now let's talk about SDS sheets. Every hazardous chemical has a safety data sheet with 16 standardized sections. Employers are required to make them accessible and train you on how to use them. Let's be practical. Most people aren't going to read all 16 sections front to back, but you need to know where the critical information is. Section 4, first aid measures. If something goes wrong, that's where you find what to do immediately for eyes, skin, inhalation, or ingestion. And Section 8, exposure controls and PPE. That's your roadmap for protection. Ventilation requirements, respirators, gloves, eye protection. If you want to know how to protect yourself before you start the task, Section 8 tells you. The label tells you what you're dealing with. The SDS tells you how to protect yourself and what to do if something goes wrong. Now let's break down those pictograms, because once you understand those symbols, you can identify hazards in seconds.